Hello, my name is Alyssa Gwen, and welcome to Scranton Elementary. So, I observed a fourth grade class in English, a lab class, a science class, and a math classroom. I stayed with the same group of students for the full time, but switched classrooms and teachers. However, the first day I just did English and switched students. The diversity in the class I was in included blind or visually impaired, gifted and talented, learning disability, speech and emotionally impaired, and disabled. The race and ethnicity of the class was 10% African American, which is overall about 75% of the learners in the class. And then the next biggest was white students. So this is the setup for the lab class. It had three desks in the middle, and then the teacher's desk, and then the Promethean board, which is also called Smartboard. Then this is the English class. We sat in the back by the small group section. That is where we sat. The teacher's desk was behind that. Then this is the math class. We sat in this back corner here. And the students weren't sat there that day, so we sat there. And then the science classroom. We sat in this extra desk section, and the class was awesome. The reward systems in the school, it's school-wide. It's called PPIS. They collected points in each class, and if they hit 30 points overall for good behavior, like walking quiet, in line quietly, cleaning up properly, sitting and listening properly, like asked. And if they hit the goal, they would get a pizza party with soda. And their teens in the class, they were going in, they would drop off their bags and then line up in a straight file line and then enter in the classroom. Once they got in, they sat down in their seats and organized their materials by placing the pencils and the books in the storage shelf if the room had one, like, for example, the science classroom. But otherwise, it would just go in the desk drawers. Teacher-student interactions. During my observation, I noticed that teacher-student interactions varied by classroom and teacher. In English, the teacher was friendly but maintained enough sternness to manage the class and kept communication open with the students. In the lab, the teacher was strict and less interactive, frequently reminding students to lower their voices. In the math classroom, the teacher balanced firmness with compassion, always offering to help a struggling student. And in science, the teacher was easygoing, covering all the topics while also giving the students time to enjoy being a kid and being in work. Across all the classrooms, the teacher handled mistakes and punishments very similarly by putting students aside to talk with them privately. Like, for example, when the students were working in the hall, one of the boys kept being disruptive and running in the hall. So once we got to the bathroom and all the students went in, the English teacher pulled him aside and told him respectfully to stop running and explained why that's a bad idea. And the students did end up correcting their problem. Student engagement. Also, during my observation, I noticed that student engagement changed depending on the classroom. In English, students paid close attention and participated the most. In the lab, the students were often distracted and didn't follow the directions easily, but they still participated in the activity. In science, the students focused on the work and participated even though they asked fewer questions than in the other classes. In math, the students were quiet and participated very well, especially during independent work like the test or one-on-one work. Across all of the classes, the teacher included some group activities before the test to encourage collaboration and engagement and to get the energy out of those kids. Instructional strategies. I noticed that the teachers used diverse instructional strategies. In English, the teacher mainly included lecture work, but then also included just a little bit of group work, like the dice worksheet activity, for example, that will be shown later. In science, they used a combination strategy with teacher-led instructions followed by a beads group activity, which we'll address later. The lab class was fully cooperative as students worked together on building a windmill with minimal teacher instruction. Math also used a combination approach with students solving problems on the board and then working in pairs. All teachers used smartboards except for the lab teacher, and all students used laptops for their mastery tests. The English teacher also used videos to help students focus during independent work. Technology-supported learning helps accommodate different learning styles, such as visual learners benefiting from the smartboard. Assessments. Throughout the day, the classes I observed used a mix of formal and informal assessments and activities. For example, in all subjects I observed, the students completed a school-wide unit mastery assessment that helps teachers and administrators track student progress throughout the year. However, before taking the test, each student class also completed different warm activities. In English, students answered English language arts questions of the day and participated in an activity to match dice to either a synonym or an antonym for the words in the chart. These activities help students get focused and prepare their minds before moving to the formal assessment. In other subjects I observed, each class had its own unique activities and assessments. In the lab, the students worked on hands-on projects where they assembled electric windmills out of cubes and then brought them to the front of the room for the teacher's desk to test how well they worked. In the science test class, the students finished an activity that used a bowl of beads to represent renewable and non-renewable resources. The bowl held 90 black beads for non-renewable resources and 10 white beads for renewables. The students rolled dice to see how many beads to pull out each round, keeping the black beads out permanently while returning only the white ones. This showed how students how non-renewable resources eventually run out, even when there seems to be more of them at first. In math, the students took a unit mastery test, but also worked on what the school called spirals, which are timed practice sheets. During this time, they focused on base 10 concepts, rounding, and understanding the value of expressions. These are some of the examples of the two language arts question assessments. What assessments teach us and how we use them. I learned that assessments are tools teachers use to note how their students are progressing through the state standards. They can be formal, such as standardized tests, or informal, like worksheets, hands-on activities, and exit tickets. Assessments can help teachers and administrators see what skills the students have grasped and which areas they may need more support in. In classes, I observed the teachers used a mix of formal assessments and informal. The teachers can use assessments to determine instructions by looking at what's the scores, to decide what needs to be taught, what to slow down on, and when the class is ready to move on to the next topic. Assessments also help teachers group up students based on their needs, so students who might not be doing as well can work with peers who understand the material better. This allows all students to grow at their own pace. Assessment results help teachers adjust their lessons, plan extra assessment, future assessments, and support the students who need extra guidance. I saw this distinctly in my observation in the English class, where my teacher created different worksheets based on each student's skill level to help them improve and move forward. What I learned and how it will guide my teaching. I think these observations will help me in my teaching because they show me what kind of teacher I want to be, warm and helpful, and what grade level I want to work with. I learned that teaching can be incredibly mentally draining since you have to stay patient and also positive every day. But it's also incredibly rewarding when the students are engaged and smiling. I also realized how many responsibilities teachers juggle, such as managing behavior, planning lessons, grading, and keeping the classroom organized, which has shown me how much dedication and patience this job takes. What has impacted me the most about teaching? These observations, sorry. These things that impacted me the most from these observations were learning how to actually grab the students' attention and observing how teachers held students accountable when they made mistakes. These moments made me realize how strong classroom management creates a positive learning environment and makes teaching run more smoothly. Does this reinforce my decision to become a teacher? This experience definitely reinforced my decision to become a teacher. I realized how much I truly love being around kids, and I got a real everyday look at what teaching is all about, from paperwork to the lesson planning to the actual instruction. Seeing everything that happens in a classroom makes me appreciate the job even more. Even on the tougher days, I love the energy and the excitement and the motivation that comes from knowing you're doing it all for your students. Thank you.